I had 3 blank months where I thought, oh my goodness,
What went on?
what am I going to do? I had a word for myself and thought, right, what do I know better? The market out there is so massive. I had to kind of condense it and really start thinking about niches. And ever since I did that, my mindset and everything changed.
During this episode with Lisa Kitt, who is the founder of Dahlia Recruitment and the host of RNG Girls, we explore her journey over the last 3 decades through niche markets, how she ended up launching her own business. And it's a really candid, pragmatic and open conversation, and a little bit contrary actually. So I think if you're somebody who's naturally a bit more instinctive, a lot more intuitive, and definitely less likely to sit there and do business plan after business plan, I think this one could be for you. We talk about her industry, which is very niche, biogas, and why she believes that niching in a niche is the best way to carve out your specialism and how you become a true industry and thought leader. We talk around launching a podcast, and we finish the episode on a real passion project of Lisa's. We talk around food. So all the food is standby. Can't wait for you to get to know Lisa. Welcome to the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast. I'm your host, Lysha Holmes, and I'm joined today by somebody that I have known for a really long time. And believe it or not, that this recording date has taken 3 attempts, no less, because this particular individual and founder is just always flying everywhere. She's usually off somewhere global, but I'm very pleased to say that she's very safely here in the UK now. And as we record this in March, she only just made it back from the Middle East. So I'm very relieved on a personal and professional level. So I'd like to welcome to you all today, Lisa Kitt. Welcome to you today, Lisa. How are you?
Hello, Lysha. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm very happy to be back safe from the Middle East.
Sure. And if you are listening and you're listening and it's still ongoing, we are sending you all the love and support and, care as much as we can from the UK. So, Lisa, I've known you for such a long time that I dread to think how long it's been actually, because obviously we're both still 25 years of age. So tell me about you, your recruitment journey, and what you are now doing as a founder of your own business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in recruitment for far too long, probably about 30 years now. I think I'm one of those, we always kind of we fall into it, and I was one of the original probably IT recruiters back in Bromley, where many of you will probably remember this, where you couldn't walk down Bromley High Street without walking into a recruiter. Your MSBs and your DP Connects, and all the boys wearing their Lewin shirts and what have you. Yeah, I have worked in a number of industries, but probably over the last kind of 15 years, since I moved from London back to Manchester, it's been more on the life sciences and renewable energy side.
What made you make the move out of interest? Because obviously tech was still very much booming sort of 10, 15 years ago.
Have a guess. It was obviously a man.
Of course. Of course, you moved for a man.
I
Now,
did. I did, yeah.
what are you going to say then?
I think I'd had enough of London at that point, and I was there for a long time, and I just had enough. And actually, at that point, I'd moved out of your typical agency, and I'd actually gone into an RPO model.
Of course, right.
And it was really cool because I was working for an online gaming company called Party Gaming, and it was amazing. It was I can't remember. I think it was run by Alexander Mann at the point.
Okay.
And it was great. I was living in Gibraltar, then they moved me to Bulgaria, and I was all over the place.
Oh, that's
Um,
amazing.
it was great, and do you know what? It was really good as well. And I think it's really kind of helped me in my career, being able to see the other side, the
Absolutely.
RPO side, and being able to see how implementation takes place, costing, modeling, and that kind of thing, and you know how frustrating it is when agencies do go out of process. You can kind of relay that back to clients now.
That's really, I mean, I was going to say, just pause for a moment. That's where I think most recruitment professionals don't have that stakeholder understanding. And I think that it should almost be mandatory for recruitment professionals at some point in their journey to work for an end user client, just so they experience what, what resource planning really means, what, like you say, what onboarding means, what, what every impact of that hiring process actually means when it comes to, when they've landed. So that's an amazing experience. I think I probably knew that at the time, but I didn't know that at the time. And then you moved to Gibraltar, then you moved to Bulgaria. That's very cool.
It's great in ski season. It's not so great in non-ski season. Everybody smokes like chimneys, and it was just a strange place. And it's not even that, you can't even relate to the. I mean, in Gibraltar, everybody speaks English anyway, but in Bulgaria, But anyway.
Bulgarian.
In Bulgaria they don't obviously speak any English, and refuse to speak English. So it was just and I was out there on my own as well.
Oh, Lisa, that's earning stripes.
I was stuck there for about 9 months, I think. And then I decided to move with my partner to Manchester, and I really kind of miss whilst I really enjoyed the RPO side of it. It was great, and the experience was invaluable. I really missed the buzz of running a team and actually doing recruitment. So I won't go through my whole biog, but I ended up working for a life science company, and that's how that journey started. And I think that's probably where you and I pretty much connected. And that was it. I spent a long time in life sciences, and I kind of moved in between. Sorry, that's the dog in the background.
We don't want the dog making an appearance.
Yeah. We looked after some great clients across temp and perm. And I did a mixture of client development, business development, in general, kind of managing teams. And then I got this phone call one day from this gentleman, really out of the blue, who, and I'm so grateful that I answered this phone call, because if I hadn't have answered this phone call, I think it was a LinkedIn message, then we just wouldn't. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, which I'll go onto in a minute. So it's funny how it's like that film Sliding Doors, isn't it?
Just about to say Sliding Doors. It's exactly that.
Yeah, and he's a wonderful guy called David, who's become a massive kind of business mentor and friend to me. And he was CEO of a big French company, and it was bizarre. I mean, how many times do you get a CEO giving you a call and saying, I need to partner with a recruiter? It's it's everybody's pretty much dream. So I was sat there going, huh? What is this, a wind up? Yeah. And anyway, I was like, right, where are you? Can I come and meet you? Because jokes aside, the one thing that I find really kind of valuable about this role, and I don't think I think a lot of it's been lost during COVID, is going and seeing your clients and really kind of building up that rapport, and that's one thing that I try and do. I try and really kind of find out when the birthdays are, what the kids' names are, and all that information.
Who are you?
Without sounding like a bit of a stalker, but you kind of have to really build those relationships up. And I went anyway. I jumped on a train. I went down to meet him, and the rest was kind of history. And he said to me, we're pivoting our business, and we're they have many revenue streams. It's all in the gas industry, but we're moving into biogas. And I was like, what's this guy talking about? And I had no idea. And in fairness, now if you want to hear anything about biogas, it's so out in the because the industry's worth billions. But back then, 10, 11 years ago, nobody had really heard of it, and there was only a couple of companies and a few farmers that had their kind of plants. And he basically said to me, look, I don't really want to work with HR. I need somebody that kind of gets me, can help me grow this business, because we're a startup, but we've got the cash to do it. Dream scenario, right?
Scenario. You're speaking to the decision maker.
We just worked really, really closely together for years and years. And I pretty much, built the whole of their kind of UK team. We went on a road trip to France so he could kind of introduce me to the team over there and HR. And then I yeah, really started kind of building out, using that. We're doing this in the UK. What can we do for you in the US? What can we do for you in Italy, Germany, and all these places where biogas is getting really big? And David has been saying to me for years, go and do it on your own. But I think you also have to be. I think you have to be mentally prepared.
You have, it has to be such a burning desire. You can't think of
And
anything else.
it wasn't, I worked for a great company, who are sadly no longer with us, called Charlton Morris. And they had the culture right. It was, it was brilliant, and you really kind of felt like a team. And when that finished, I was at a bit of a crossroads. I have been kind of thinking about it. I joined another company which just wasn't really the right fit. But I think at the back of my mind, I was also thinking about, should I do this?
Yeah.
But I wanted to do it where I didn't have any investment, rightly or wrongly, because it is a real, it's a real test. It's a risk, and
Absolutely.
but I didn't really want to be managed by anybody at the time. And I'm not saying that taking investment's a bad thing in any, but it just wasn't for me at the
You knew
time.
that you knew deep down that this was it was the crest of a wave that you were on. That I guess that serendipity with what happened with Charlton Morris, go and
Yeah.
try working somewhere else, and for whatever reason that wasn't the right fit for either of you. I often think that when I'm speaking to founders, obviously as a podcast host, but also in my day job, it's there. It's just something that's flowing through you, and at some point the urge and the requirement to go and do it becomes so overwhelming you can't think of anything else. I find it interesting that you knew that you weren't going to take investment, and I think that whether you see it as a risk or not, I think that's something to applaud yourself for, because you want to do things and maintain that control, because ultimately
Yeah.
that's what you're going to do. So where are we at now in the timeline? We're now post COVID, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We
Yeah,
are.
so this
And
is
we I mean, please, if anybody knows me, or well, don't go on holiday wherever I'm going, because there tends to be some kind of natural disaster. So the moment kind of hit me when we were in Jamaica a couple of years ago, where we got stuck in a big bloody hurricane, and Hurricane Beryl, and a couple of years before, volcano erupted in Bali. So yeah, just watch where I'm going and don't go. I'm going to Greece.
basically.
Yeah, I'm going to Greece in June, just an FYI.
I don't think anywhere's been as dangerous as Butlins in Minehead, but we'll leave.
No, no, definitely not. So yeah, so and I remember we were sat in this hurricane, and I don't know, I just had this light bulb moment and thought, do you know what? That's it. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to rip the plaster off. And for somebody who's quite into planning, I didn't really have a plan, if I was honest with you. My plan could have been done on the back of a fag packet, And if Paul Sharp, if you're listening, I know you'll be screwing your face up and shouting at me now. Um,
You do,
but
don't you? He's been on the
yeah,
pod. He was on the pod only. I think it went out in February. So yeah, he's a friend of the show.
yeah. Paul and I have known each other. Oh my God, far too long.
When I
But
saw him for lunch, you were on FaceTime. We FaceTimed each other.
but yeah, but my plan literally was to genuinely keep the lights on, and that was it, and it probably it wasn't the right plan, because I remember starting up, and my goodness, it's people, I'm not really into calling myself titles don't bother me. You can still call me a recruiter. I don't care, but when you're kind of sat there and you're used to being surrounded by structure and systems and things, and you kind of sat in your front room on your own, with a blank database, it really is kind of daunting.
It's
And
humbling, isn't it? Because because actually, even with all those things around you, if you are a business winner, that is all there ever is anyway. So,
Yeah.
well, I'll just go and do it. I'll back myself.
And the thing is, as well, I've not, I've always done quite a bit of C-suite recruitment, but in probably the last 7 or 8 years, I've been more focused on winning the business, nurturing the client,
Yeah.
growing them,
Yeah.
bringing everything back to a delivery team,
Yeah.
and ensuring that everything's delivered to the client. So I haven't really been in a typical kind of 360 role for quite some time, and yeah, that was a shock. um,
But
but
I think that, that often gets missed where people are who are listening now that maybe are clicking on because they're thinking of launching on their own. Because I think that'll be the real hook with this, that you naturally have to be somebody who prefers and is in their flow when it comes to business development. So just from a practical point of view, then, if you're, and I know that's the capacity that you've been employed for the last few roles, that that's your sweet spot. You are. If I think of someone who's a business winner, I do think of you. You're in that, the top echelon of that. So from a practical point of view, though, like, where did you go in terms of talent pools and market mapping and speaking to actual candidates? Did you have to start from scratch?
this is where it's quite interesting. So I was all over the place. I'm not going to lie, I really was, because my two worlds were always biogas and science,
Don't you?
and whilst the two kind of mix,
Mm,
you can end up doing too much. And I was doing loads of this and loads of that, and oh my
yeah.
goodness, I'll pick this up, I'll pick that up just to get some money in, and I had quite a good start with a couple of clients that I've known for years, and then absolutely not going to lie, I had 3 blank months where I thought, oh my goodness,
What have I done?
what are we going to do? And the
You should get me a job.
and the sleepless nights and everything that kind of came with it. But you also have to have a bit of a word with yourself, and well, I did. I had a word with myself and thought, right, what what do I know better? Because the market out there is so massive, and I had to kind of condense it and really start thinking about niches. And ever since I did that, my mindset and everything changed. Been in recruitment for 30 years, but and you think you know it all. You just don't.
I
Um,
love that. So, and can we just focus on this now? So you're a niche within a niche, and anyone that follows me on LinkedIn will know that I've been talking about this. That if you want to future proof to actually even be in business in a year's time, you should be niching down. So, how did you actually go? Just talk me through how you did that.
so well, going back to kind of, I pushed the life science stuff to one side, apart from one really good medtech company that I work with, and because the thing was with biogas, and not only I, I've been in it from the start, so we'd taken all these people out of, because biogas wasn't really a thing. We had to take people from waste, from solar, from any of the renewables, and biogas wasn't really sexy. It's in some cases, if it's not feedstock, it's condensed, it's you know poo basically
Who
that
says
you're
it's
yeah
shit? Is that
it's
what we're
it's
talking
shit. I
about?
was trying to be polite,
Animal
but yeah,
poo.
it's shit.
Animal poo.
Animal poo, and
It was.
things that but we've moved on quite a bit now, and people, because it does smell, they're trying to move more into kind of the feedstock side of things, but and food waste, of course. And
That's where all your brown bin waste goes, guys.
it really does, and make sure you put it in there, because I'm doing. I'll go on to that in a moment, because it's quite close to my heart, that subject. But yeah, we I just went back over all the years, and and I thought, I know all these bloody people in biogas. Why am I not kind of leveraging on it? And there's some great conferences that happen within the market, and some fantastic people, and I just kind of really focused on that. David's moved on from another company, and he's a Ned now for lots of companies, and he introduced me to a lot of people, and I just it just snowballed from there, and it really shows
I love
the
that. So
power
you
of
launched, it's Dahlia, isn't it?
Dahlia. Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
tell us about Dahlia. Where did the name come from? The inspiration.
Do you know what? Do you know what the hardest? One of the hardest parts of setting this business up was trying to find a recruitment name, and because there's that many companies that have set up over the years, and then it started off being a game, going onto company's house and
I
putting in
know.
like banana recruitment or yellow recruitment. Sorry if anybody's listening that works at banana or yellow recruitment, but um, it's just mad, and I just couldn't think of anything. And me and my other half just sat in a pub one night writing all these names down, and I didn't really want something that was too life sciencey or too green either.
Or your
And
name, or your name. You wanted it to be a brand.
no,
Yeah.
and again,
Yeah.
no disrespect to anybody who
No, no,
calls themselves after, but yeah, it just wasn't for me. And I can't remember how it came up. It must, and I was just we were just thinking about things, and my granddad used to absolutely love dahlias, and he was convinced that one day this black dahlia would kind of grow in the garden, which obviously it never did. And I just thought, oh, do you know what? That's actually quite a nice name, and it's not,
There's a novel, and I can't think. It's years ago that I read, and it's about black dahlias. I'll have to try and find the name of it. Whoever listening knows the name of it and put it in the comments. That is the most gorgeous. Like, I love the full sort of honesty about it, because that's true. I've done that before. I mean, I live on company's house anyway for lots of reasons, as you can imagine.
yeah,
And every name goes, and you just think, oh, that's a shame. What, like, if I was setting up now, what would I call my business? And I would probably go with a brand, like you say. Well, I did. I mean, Key Recruitment is a brand, but I love Dahlia, and it just allows you to, you can then, I suppose, from the niche point of view, you're not saying we are just doing biogas, we are
yeah.
just doing this. So that's really important. And so are you in year 2, year 3?
No, I mean, I'm halfway through year two, so
Oh,
it's
so you're
kind of
still really
only been,
embryonic.
yeah, so it's still a
Okay.
baby.
Yep.
But I keep saying we,
It's,
I,
it's the royal
um,
we.
I say we as in a collective with clients and
Yeah, I love
everybody,
that
and
community.
yeah, and my CPO, my chief pet officer in the
I
building,
love that.
probably
We
here making a noise, so the toys
come
might start
on.
squeaking in
I'm
a
kind
bit.
of secretly hoping that we get an appearance, but I know that you don't want that, because then we might go off on a totally different. And tell us about your podcast role, because you also
Yeah.
are running a podcast.
Well, this kind of it we really kind of fell into this because I was trying to think of a way, and I've been really fortunate over the last kind of 12 months that I've not really had to do any BD. I've had a lot of inbound work coming in, but I've been doing a bit of BD in a different sort of way. And the biogas market is so there's the two things here. I've got a real kind of passion for women in engineering. Well, sorry, women in whatever it might be, but the biogas side, and they just are hard. Whilst it's growing, we are still a
Minority.
minority. It really is, and I'm working with companies that are big, um, companies like ABDA, who are a big like trading body, and I'm helping them to kind of collate information so we can do the kind of biannual Women in Biogas report that goes out, and this report goes out globally. And I was just thinking about it. I thought I know so many people all over, mainly kind of US and Europe. But Mexico's a big, and Brazil are big places for biogas at the moment. And there's just some incredible, brilliant women in this industry. And I just started thinking about, I thought, do you know what? There aren't really any kind of podcasts or any platforms for people to really share things with. So myself and another girl, it started off as a bit of a joke, to be honest with you, and we called it RNG Girls, which means renewable natural gas.
Love it.
For the record, it does not mean ring girls. I am far from one of those.
Just in case you ever get anyone calling.
No, I mean I keep
Good.
trying, but yeah, no. Uh, and it started off as a bit of a joke, to be honest with you. And we started putting, posts up and just general information about what's going on in the market. And I started talking to people about it, and they were like, "Oh my God, we love this. It's great." People within the industry, and we got, a lot of followers overnight. And I've then myself and the other girl who started it, she's kind of gone off and done her own thing because it wasn't a business at that point anyway. And we've just within the last, so just before Christmas, I was talking to an amazing lady that I know who's turned into a really good friend. She's VP. She's just been made VP of Biogas Americas, and she's incredible.
Wow.
And Sky said to me, what are you going to do about this? And I said, I don't know, I'm not sure. And she said, you are not letting this go. She said, you've worked too hard. And she said, look, I've got a light bulb moment. She said, why don't you have keep it as RNG Girls? She said, because it's now becoming a brand, people know it. And why don't you rotate? And we put our heads together. So now we're about to launch mid-April. We're just recording at the moment, and we're so the platform will have, sorry, the podcast will have myself and another industry expert from the RNG market, but somebody who actually works in it, not a plastic RNG girl like me, who just works in recruitment. But they're immersed in the tech, they're immersed in investment, waste, everything like that. And we are going to co-host, and we will be interviewing companies, and it's going out bi-weekly. We have had so much support from it. It's been incredible. And I've had that many companies contact me and say, when's the podcast coming out and can we be a guest?
I love it. Are you going to do a community event, like a live event or something, do you think?
Yeah, well, in May, so Biogas Americas is on over in Detroit, and so I'm heading over there. And I had a call with the head of training there yesterday, and she was like, look, can we do the podcast live, and can we get like 4 generations of women on there and really kind of push women in this space? And
oh my God, I love that.
it's gonna be really cool. So it's juggling that with kind of juggling recruitment, which obviously keeps the lights on, and it's my day job. But who knows where it's going to go. I've been, there are companies that are talking to me about potential sponsorship and things. So
good for you. Well, this is it. It's a holistic approach, and what I find really absolutely inspiring, and what I'm taking away from this, there's loads I'm taking away from it, but the fact that so often and Paul probably have to put his hands over his ears, you think when you're a founder and you're launching something that you have to have this business plan that sets out your 30, 60, 90 days, your first year, your second year, your fifth year. But actually, very often, you almost have to have a really pragmatic approach, respond and react. And I think what can happen is, and this is totally contrary to what Paul would probably say, or anyone listening that is a nerd or a
we're going to get a phone call straight after this goes live.
But that's fine. That's good.
I might call him in a minute.
We'll tag him in the post as well, I think. But I think my understanding, and I've helped to launch dozens of founders over the last decade or so with, whether it's on their own, whether it's incubation companies, whether it's just me coaching them. And actually, I think it's great to have like a vision and a values, mission, and, this is where the brand's going to be. But actually, sometimes just go with the flow a little bit, and don't get so caught up in the P&L that you are almost, if you were just focusing on revenue, for example, you probably would have gone, oh, podcast is a distraction, I can't do that. But actually, what it's going to do is elevate you so significantly that it will just overarch anything else that you would have done by doing business development. So I love that, Lee. Lisa, I've got a really strange question for you. If you were to pick up the phone and ring Lisa of, say, I don't know, 5 years ago, what's the one thing that you would do differently? And what's the one thing that you are really proud of?
5 years ago, what was I doing 5 years ago?
Well, we're still in kind of COVID-y, kind of weird.
Yeah. You know, I'm not one to kind of dwell on like I should have done this, I should have done that.
Mhm.
Um, and COVID was God, was that 6 years ago now?
Ah,
It was such weird times, wasn't it? And yeah, I was lucky because I was really Charlton Morris were flying
yeah.
during
I,
COVID. But yeah, I think I probably would have done it sooner
yeah.
if I'm honest with you. And I think probably, but it's going back to that kind of you've got to be mentally prepared for it. And maybe I was. I don't really know, but I think I'd have definitely kind of set up sooner and
You back
probably
yourself sooner. But I think some serendipity, sliding doors, whatever you want to say, that these things happen. Lisa, I mean, I know it took us 3 goes, but we got there. And I think that your pragmatism, your honesty, your love for the industry, the fact that you've been doing it as long as me and you've still got the same passion and enthusiasm
we're
and
still
you
wearing the same clothes.
we're literally, if you're not watching on a YouTube, we are literally wearing the same outfit, which is just absurd. Like some kind of what's it called? Telepathic, like what's going to look nice today? Maybe we're just trying to.
White angels.
Yeah, we were angels, darling. We were Christmas angels. I will make sure that on this. Oh, I don't want to forget that you wanted to talk about food waste. This is your passion project.
Oh,
Forget the
yeah.
recruitment bit now. What should we all be doing?
Well, depending on where you live,
Okay.
one of the big things that we do not do as a country very well is food waste, and I this is what generates a lot of the biogas plants. And again, if you don't know anything about it, it is actually quite fascinating that we've got people that go to your supermarkets and buy the things that are going off your fruit, your soft fruits and things like that to generate these plants. Um, but just make sure that if anything, think about your food waste and put it in. I mean, my bin's green, but I know some of them are brown.
I know.
But yeah, we just don't. And that food, most people will just put it in kind of the grey bin. I mean, I say that most of mine goes into the dog. But if you if you
I
if
thought you
you
were going to say your husband then. Right, the dog.
Okay,
It's okay.
yeah, but yeah, do try and do it because it's really important for the environment, for the industry, and just doing that bit. And you know the the councils are starting to do more on this,
Good.
but there are no, you don't really see TV adverts or anything that tell you to do this. You can go to places like Norway, do it amazing.
Yeah.
I was in Spain at my friend's house the other week, and she's in an apartment and they've got a food waste kind of chute that, everything goes down. And there's not enough education around it.
I've just come back from France, haven't I? And in France, their recycling and their food waste sustainability is just unbelievable. I mean, it's obviously a farming, that's the profit. And, I know that we've got listeners who aren't in the UK. So if you're in a country which is, exceptional at, promoting why, and it's just so easy to do. I mean, I would go back one step and say, think before you buy your food.
Mm.
Don't overbuy,
Yeah.
local,
Oh,
buy
absolutely.
local, go buy organically, buy from your local farm, milk and eggs and produce from your local farm. Tastes a lot better. Secondly, it's usually cheaper than the supermarkets. And okay, it's not pumped full of chemicals, so it's not going to last as long. But I just think before you buy, and then if you can, definitely, yeah. But I mean, obviously, yeah, don't stick it in the green bin if it's meant to be your brown bin. So I'm glad we've mentioned that because I think that's for me again another thing that underpins why you're so successful so quickly in your business is that you're passionate about the industry, and I think there's so much that you can do holistically as an educator when it comes to, you're a recruitment founder, but you're an industry specialist, you're a thought leader, and these are just the things that we can all do as human beings. So thank you.
Yeah.
Lovely way to finish. And we'll wait for the shout from Paul back to why you do need a plan, maybe we'll have to do a three-way podcast episode and
Yeah, I am going to get told off after this. I know I am.
it doesn't matter. Thank you so much for joining us on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast.
Thanks, Lysha. Take care. Bye.